The tennis community is completely stunned at this moment, and if you haven't received the information yet, you should prepare yourself for this development. Aryna Sabalenka, the global number one and the competitor who recently fought with tremendous determination in the Australian Open Championship match, has formally withdrawn from the Qatar Open. But here's the shocking aspect that everyone's overlooking: she's not the sole individual departing. This isn't merely one athlete making a difficult choice regarding her competition schedule. This is a complete withdrawal, a collective desertion, a tournament collapse of massive scale. The Qatar Open is essentially falling apart right before our observation, and what we're observing currently could transform everything about how the WTA functions for years ahead. Allow me to present you the complete scenario of this absolute disorder. Because when you examine the entire roster of names withdrawing from this competition, your surprise is going to be overwhelming. Sabalenka captures the attention because she's the most prominent name, the reigning global number one who claimed this identical tournament during 2020 when she was still building herself as a future title holder. But she's merely the beginning of the problem. Jessica Pegula, presently ranked global number 6 and among the most reliable competitors on circuit, determined she'd prefer being practically anywhere besides Doha. Naomi Osaka, the four-time Grand Slam victor who's been attempting to return to maximum performance, examined the Middle Eastern tour and stated, "No appreciation to the complete schedule." Madison Keys withdrew. Barbara Krejcikova is absent. The injury roster keeps growing with athletes like Marketa Vondrausova stepping aside to heal from different conditions. Even Leylah Fernandez, whom tennis enthusiasts were eager to watch this season, hasn't even begun her 2025 season yet. Are you beginning to recognize the issue here? This isn't a typical circumstance where one or two athletes have genuine injuries and must make difficult selections. This is methodical. This is calculated. This is half the women's circuit examining the Qatar Open and unanimously determining it's not valuable for their schedule, effort, or physical condition. The competition coordinators in Doha must be completely panicking at this moment. They advertised this occasion with the guarantee of world-class tennis featuring the most prominent names in the women's competition. They distributed tickets months beforehand to enthusiasts who desired to witness Sabalenka, Pegula, Osaka, and all these remarkable competitors perform at the peak standard. They obtained sponsorships and broadcasting agreements based on the celebrity influence that was intended to illuminate their venues. And currently, what do they possess? Competition so diminished that they're rushing to complete the primary bracket with athletes who were initially intended to be working through preliminary rounds merely to participate. Allow that to register for a period. The Qatar Open, a premier-level WTA occasion that's intended to display elite tennis, is currently providing primary bracket positions to athletes like Alexandra Eala, Emiliana Arango, Daria Kasatkina, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, and Kristina Buxa. Not because these athletes earned their path through qualification, but because there's practically nobody remaining to occupy the positions. The spaces that were designated for the premier athletes in the globe are currently filled by competitors who, while skilled, were never intended to be the main attractions of this occasion. That's not a criticism of these athletes whatsoever. They're professional tennis competitors performing at an exceptionally advanced standard. But this isn't how a marquee WTA competition is intended to operate. You don't construct a premier occasion by filling gaps in your roster because everyone you genuinely desired chose to depart. The chain reaction here is intriguing to observe, and it all begins with comprehending what Sabalenka recently experienced in Melbourne. The Australian Open Championship match against Elena Rybakina wasn't merely another contest. It was a grueling, emotionally devastating confrontation that left Sabalenka completely crushed. And here's what makes this so compelling. Sabalenka didn't attempt to conceal it. In her post-contest media conference, she was surprisingly candid about how she was experiencing, and her openness provides us a unique perspective into the psychological and physical cost that elite tennis genuinely inflicts on these competitors. When questioned about her execution, Sabalenka didn't deliver the typical corporate athlete statement. She didn't claim she provided everything and she's satisfied with her attempt, and she'll gain knowledge from this and return more powerful next occasion. Instead, she expressed something far more genuine and far more informative. She confessed that Rybakina performed an outstanding contest and that she attempted her complete best, but it merely wasn't sufficient. She recognized that she possessed chances and believes she overlooked a few. But then she responded and stated, "That's simply tennis. One occasion you're the defeated, the following occasion you're the victor." And then arrived the statement that should inform you everything regarding her perspective. "Hopefully I'll be more of a victor this season than a defeated," wishing at this moment and requesting. Let's halt right there because that declaration is completely significant. This is the global number one. A competitor who has claimed multiple Grand Slam championships and controlled the circuit for years. And she's literally stating she wishes and requests she triumphs more than she loses this year. That's not the assured champion discussion you typically receive from elite competitors. That's someone who recently had her spirit extracted in a Grand Slam championship and is attempting to reconstruct herself while cameras are directed at her presence. That's susceptibility. That's candor. That's what genuinely occurs when you invest everything you possess into a competition for 2 weeks, advance all the distance to the championship, and finish just inadequate. The reporter continued further, questioning Sabalenka when she intended to examine her Australian Open execution with her squad. Her answer was even more revealing. She stated she wasn't certain when she'd be prepared to observe the contests again and joked with her representative about it, expressing, perhaps in a week or perhaps in a few occasions, whenever she believes she can genuinely progress from this defeat. Then she characterized her present emotional condition as a mixture of laughing and weeping, describing it a frantic period that wasn't really beneficial. She was simply releasing everything. Discharging all the irritation and dissatisfaction and frustration that had been accumulating. She confessed she was disappointed with herself because once more, she believed she possessed chances but couldn't sustain her standard when Rybakina elevated the intensity. But then in a period of self-recognition, she stopped herself and acknowledged that overall she performed excellent tennis in Australia, even in the championship, and that she accomplished her complete best. Rybakina was merely the superior athlete that occasion. Straightforward as that, but here's the portion that genuinely demonstrates what elite competitors experience behind the curtains, the portion that the cameras don't record and the feature presentations don't display. Sabalenka stated, "We'll communicate with the squad, how they attempt to distance me because it's not really beneficial to be surrounding me at this moment. Consider that declaration for a moment." She's literally cautioning individuals that she's in such a harmful mindset after this defeat, that her personal squad, the individuals who are compensated to assist her and guide her through challenging periods, are actively attempting to distance from her because being surrounding her is mentally exhausting. That degree of openness is almost unprecedented in professional tennis. Most athletes safeguard their reputation carefully, presenting sanitized versions of their feelings that correspond neatly into the storyline of the determined champion who consistently recovers. Sabalenka is out here informing the globe that she's weeping, laughing frantically, and that she's so intolerable to be surrounding that her squad is providing her distance because they can't manage her present disposition. This is genuine. This is what genuinely occurs when you commit your complete existence to a sport, battle your path through 2 grueling weeks of contests at a Grand Slam, and finish just inadequate in the championship. You don't merely immediately activate a mechanism and become prepared to participate again a week afterward. You're mentally devastated. You're physically drained. You require time to handle the sorrow, the dissatisfaction, the hypotheticals that keep replaying in your consciousness. You require distance to be genuine, to experience your feelings, to allow yourself be crushed before you can begin reconstructing. So when you examine Sabalenka's withdrawal from Qatar through this perspective, it suddenly becomes completely logical. The competitor is emotionally damaged and physically exhausted after Melbourne. She requires time to restore her mindset before she returns on a tennis venue. Performing another high-level competition merely days after experiencing that variety of emotional trauma would be professional negligence. She'd appear unprepared, probably lose early and dig herself into an even deeper psychological gap that would require weeks or months to escape from. Taking a calculated interval to heal isn't vulnerability. It's intelligent administration of a lengthy profession. But here's where circumstances get compelling, and here's where the calculated considerations begin to become apparent. It's remarkably convenient that Sabalenka is only withdrawing from a competition where she's not protecting substantial ranking statistics, and where she hasn't executed particularly successfully in recent years. Her optimal outcome at the Qatar Open was claiming it during 2020, but her executions since then have been disappointing at optimal. She's not sacrificing much in the standings by avoiding this occasion. In reality, she might genuinely be safeguarding her standing by recuperating and returning powerful for larger competitions afterward in the season where she has more statistics to protect. Now, I'm not stating Sabalenka is fabricating her emotional exhaustion or inventing her requirement for recuperation. Mental wellness and fatigue are completely genuine issues in professional athletics, and anyone who's observed